Hey, this Ask Energy question is a popular one this time of the year in the fall, and it's probably because a lot of athletes, younger athletes in particular, go back and start playing sports. And adult athletes, this is the optimal time of the year, most of the time for like fall weather marathons or races or competition. So I see why I always get this question around this time of the year, but regardless, it is popular most times throughout the year. This is just the peak time. And the question is, are energy drinks good? Okay, let me take a deep breath with this one. I really need to unpack this because there's so many moving parts to energy drinks. Okay, so when we think of an energy drink, and this is what the question is based on, we're thinking something that provides energy, okay? Calories. Now, remember, that's the one delineator here. Are we looking for something that is a stimulant drink or an energy drink? So, an energy drink provides calories, such that food does, specifically things with carbohydrates. Now, an energy drink classically is a drink that contains carbohydrates and stimulants. Okay. So when we think about an energy drink, listen, milk can be an energy drink, juice can be an energy drink. Obviously, sports drinks can be energy drinks because they are providing calories. Okay, semantics aside, what we're talking about is that stimulant-based energy drink. Because I say energy because some of these drinks do not have energy. They do not provide carbohydrates, they merely provide stimulants. So what you're really asking me is, what about these drinks that contain a super high amount of caffeine? I know that's really what the question is, but in general, it's just energy drinks. Okay, so that's what I'm going to get to. We need to really look at the stimulant effect of caffeine. Okay, so let's break that down. If we're deciding that I'm talking about, or I'm answering the question, what about stimulants, specifically caffeine in a drink that provides the stimulant? What do I think about that? Okay, well, let's break it down. If we're talking about a drink that has under 200 milligrams of caffeine versus over 200 milligrams of caffeine, and I say that because the majority of these stimulant drinks do have under 200 or below milligrams of caffeine per dose or per can per serving. Okay. There are a few of them that are floating around that have over 200. I would not recommend those. I'm not going to talk about those because that is a way too high of a dose for caffeine for most individuals. Okay, let me talk about the norm. So we're talking about a can, a serving, a bottle, whatever, of a stimulant drink that has caffeine about 200 milligrams or less. Popular is anywhere between 100 and 200 milligrams. So let's back up. What do we know caffeine does in the body? Well, it is a stimulant. It stimulates the central nervous system. We know that. There is great research to support that it can reduce rating of perceived exertion. Absolutely. And that's why a lot of times we want that stimulation is so we reduce the perceived exertion during exercise, during competition, so it makes it feel easier for us. Now, there's a lot of different pathways I can take on this because I work with a lot of college athletes who just need that pick me up, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I'm going to classes, study hall, practices. I don't have any time for anything. I just need an energy drink to get me through the day. I don't really think that's the reason to use that, right? I think these type of energy or stimulant drinks should be used on purpose, and that is for performance reasons. So if you're taking it before a practice, before a competition, before any training session that is important where you specifically need to reduce your rating of perceived exertion, then perhaps this could be a benefit to you. However, let me jump on the other topic here. A lot of us are actually very caffeine sensitive, or we are slow absorbers of caffeine. And that is a genetic based trait that each one of us has different. So we are either slow absorbers or fast absorbers to caffeine. Now, here's what the research says about that. If we are slow absorbers, I personally am a slow absorber, then using caffeine as an ergogenic aid or a performance enhancing aid is actually not going to work as well. And it takes longer to get out of your system. So normal half-life of caffeine is 4 to 6 hours. So in 4 to 6 hours, if you take 200 milligrams of caffeine, 4 to 6 hours later, you will have 100 milligrams of caffeine still floating in your body. But for slow absorbers, that could extend even longer. So there are some health consequences to taking too much caffeine at once if you are a slow absorber of caffeine. In addition to, it doesn't help performance as much. Contrast that with fast absorbers of caffeine. Now, This is when the absorption rate is very fast. And that's the researchers have actually found that caffeine, when used for an ergogenic aid, can actually be super helpful for fast absorbers. Now, that doesn't mean they need to consume more. It just means they will see that almost immediate reduction of rating of perceived exertion. Okay, so we've got this genetic thing, we've got the quantity of caffeine. Maybe you're sensitive, maybe you're not sensitive to caffeine. Also, I just question some things regarding the stimulant drinks that do have caffeine specifically, because if you do that too late in the day, it can actually interrupt your sleep patterns. If you interrupt your sleep patterns, now we're messing with growth hormone release and recovery and the lack of recovery or the slow ability for your body to recover. Now, obviously, as athletes, what we want to focus on is obviously improving our performance. So when we train, we're breaking down our body. When we sleep, we're improving, we're preparing our body. So I try to make sure to protect that sleep circle or that bubble as much as possible. So I usually tell athletes, if you are taking a caffeinated beverage, try not to do it after about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Kind of depends on what time you go to bed at night. Okay, so back to this whole stimulant energy drink. So I am usually not a big fan of a stimulant drink that contains caffeine because of the various reasons I just mentioned. Now, the other side of this coin is there are some pre-workout energy drinks, whatever you want to call them, really, stimulant drinks that do not have caffeine, but that have other ingredients that improve energy production in your body, in the mitochondria. So now we have these energy powders or drinks or stimulant drinks that are not really stimulating your central nervous system. They're not getting you up very quickly, giving you the jitters, but they're steadily giving you energy because it's helping with energy production. Now, with these, I'm very interested in these, and I will actually pretty much give my thumbs up with those types of products that do not have a caffeine source because I believe they're much safer. Again, you have to look at the ingredients because sometimes the ingredients can get kind of wonky. But I'm basically saying if we're looking at a stimulant-based drink that has caffeine versus does not have caffeine, but other ingredients that actually provide energy by stimulating or by supporting energy production, I'm a much bigger fan of those than the caffeine ones. Now, I do think there's a time and a place for the caffeine ones if you're a fast absorber of caffeine, if you're not sensitive to caffeine. And remember this, when you consume caffeine, it also promotes things moving in your body. So sometimes you can actually have bowel movements after taking these kind of beverages or products. You could also increase your urination quite a bit. So you have to plan for that, right? The other thing I see is because I work with a lot of different athletes, if your sport requires a high degree of mental focus and cognition, balance specifically, you probably do not want a lot of caffeine flowing through your veins. You just don't, right? Because what is that going to do? That is going to give you, like a lot of athletes get the jitters after they drink caffeine. So I'm just imagining like a gymnast on a balance beam or something like that, right? Those things, or maybe a diver, right? So you have to be sport specific with these products also. So it doesn't make sense for some athletes, while it may make sense for others. It may make sense for a marathoner or a long distance triathlete, right? Absolutely. But another thing to that, especially now that I'm on the endurance athlete topic, if you're an endurance athlete and you're consuming caffeine, you figure out, yeah, it works for me, and your event lasts, longer than 3-4 hours, you have to continually dose with caffeine. So if you are going to use one of these energy products or stimulant products, remember, I've got a saying, once you start, you can't stop, right? So if you're 3 hours into a longer race, and you start your first dose of caffeine, you probably have to continue every couple hours because the reason you're taking it is to reduce the rating of perceived exertion primarily. So back to this whole thing. Do I support the use of energy drinks? Well, I think the answer to that question, as you heard, is it kind of depends on what we're talking about when it comes to energy drinks, right? Are we talking about energy like calories or energy like caffeine? Is it a stimulant drink, or is it possibly a pre-workout that does not have any caffeine but has really beneficial ingredients to promote energy production? Perhaps that is probably a little bit more on my radar. But again, I think time and place for the caffeinated stimulant drinks, absolutely. I do use those very strategically, both in my own training and all the other athletes that I work with. I also think, lastly, just and this question didn't ask about this, but I just want to mention this, is there are different types of caffeine, right? There's caffeine that comes from a lab or caffeine anhydrous, it's called. There's also caffeine that comes from coffee beans, from green tea extract, right? So there's probably, in my mind, if I'm going to choose a product, I'm probably going to choose a product that has caffeine from more, I guess, natural sources rather than a lab, just because you get a lot of other additional benefits. Like a coffee bean has a lot of antioxidants in it, right? But you also get caffeine from it. So there's a lot of hit and misses, a lot of pros and cons to this. But in the end, I am definitely not. I'm not going to disregard the use of energy drinks. I do believe that we need to define what they are, define why we're using them, define if you are a fast or slow absorber of caffeine, define your age group. Like I really, this is one thing I really stand up tall with is I do not believe anybody under the age of 18 should be using any type of stimulant-based drink with a high dose of caffeine and or sugar. I just don't think that's right for anyone 18 years or under 18 years, right? After that, the body is maybe fully developed. We get a little bit more information, but that's kind of my stance on energy drinks and stimulant-based drinks. Great question. Sorry for going a little bit longer on this, but as you can see, there's so much to unpack with this question because it's not just easy as, open up a Red Bull or a Monster or something like this. There's so many products on the market right now. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and my team of sport dietitians at Energy Performance. We would love to help. And listen, submit your next Ask Energy question here, and myself or one of my sport dietitians that works with me will answer it for you. Thanks for the question. See you on the next one.